I'm Darin McGrady, the royal chef, former chef to the Queen, Princess Diana, Prince William, and Prince Harry. He baked their birthday cakes. He stood in the palace kitchens while the future of the monarchy played just down the hall. And for decades, royal chef Darin McGrady said nothing, but now he's broken his silence, and what he revealed about Prince William and Prince Harry is devastating. According to the man who watched them grow up behind palace walls, the royal brothers' bond isn't just strained. It may be shattered beyond repair. And when someone who was that close to the crown finally speaks out, you know it's not gossip. It's the truth no one wanted to hear. So keep watching. From Queen's kitchen to Kensington's chaos, Darin McGrady stepped into Buckingham Palace in 1982. Eager and clean-shaven, ready to cook for the Queen. At first, he was all about venison cuts and sollets so delicate they could collapse under a harsh stare. But nothing prepared him for what came next. Being transferred to Kensington Palace, where his job shifted from the Queen's table to Princess Diana's private world. That's where he saw the real royal story, not the one in tabloids or Netflix dramatizations. The real thing. A grieving princess trying to raise two boys in the middle of global fame, private heartbreak, and public duty. McGrady was watching history form right in front of the stove. The kitchen became more than a place to prepare meals. It turned into a safe zone. William, always a little more careful, more measured, would watch. Harry, full of energy and mischief, would dive straight in. They'd race in wearing pajamas, asked to help stir the custard, then spill most of it all over the floor. McGrady didn't mind, neither did Diana. She wanted them messy, loud, happy. She wanted them real. She treated the palace like a home, not a museum. And she made sure the boys experienced some part of normal childhood, even if that meant sneaking tarts behind the butler's back. But even in those warm moments, McGrady noticed things that most would miss. A glance here, a sudden silence there. When Charles came up in conversation, Diana's smile would tighten. The boys would go quiet, and slowly McGrady saw a shift. William started to keep things in. The lightness dimmed just a little. He became more controlled, more aware of the room. Harry wore his emotions like a jacket 2 sizes too big, obvious, awkward, impossible to miss. Darin McGrady saw it early on. Harry needed reassurance, someone to ground him. William, on the other hand, had already started wearing the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly where he stood in the line of succession. But despite their differences, the bond between them felt unshakable. Back then they were inseparable, tangled in the kind of brotherhood that felt like a secret language only the two of them understood. McGrady still calls them partners in crime. It's a phrase he's used more than once in interviews, always said with a trace of warmth and maybe a little heartache. In his mind, they weren't just royal siblings. They were two halves of one childhood. They fought like brothers, forgave like best friends, and treated a scolding from the nanny like a badge of honor. He remembers one day in particular when Diana overruled the nanny and gave them permission to eat fast food. McGrady could still picture their faces lit up, as if someone had promised them Christmas twice in a row. The nanny had tried to protest, but Diana didn't flinch. The boys reacted as if they'd won the lottery. That was the kind of joy they shared. Silly, messy, fleeting, but unforgettable. Their arguments, when they happened, were short-lived. Harry would sulk in dramatic silence. William would respond with a few careful words, and then just like that they'd be curled up again in front of cartoons. The tension gone as if it never existed. The toast question. Still, as much as McGrady saw their closeness, he also began to spot the subtle cracks, not in their relationship at first, but in how they were growing into their roles. William carried an awareness that Harry didn't. It wasn't just the formal training or the royal protocol. It was something deeper. William seemed to grasp that he was destined for something specific, something bigger. Harry, meanwhile, drifted in that shadow, not quite sure where to stand. McGrady has never forgotten the morning Harry asked if he would be king, too. The question came out of nowhere over a plate of toast so thick with butter it glistened in the light. It was innocent, just a little boy wondering about his future. But it stuck with McGrady for years because even then it revealed a truth that no one could sugarcoat. Harry didn't know where he fit. What makes Darren's insight so compelling isn't just that he was there. It's that he cared. He wasn't a background figure in a uniform. He was part of their everyday life. He wasn't just baking birthday cakes. He was memorizing the way Diana smiled at her sons across the table. He was listening, watching quietly, storing away moments the world would never see. He saw William's silence harden over time, the way he absorbed pressure instead of pushing back. He saw Harry's mood swings, his need for reassurance, his deep desire to be seen. The public saw polished photos and press releases. McGrady saw two boys who sometimes needed a hug more than a headline. They weren't just princes. They were Diana's boys first. That's how Darren McGrady remembers them. Muddy trainers by the fridge, giggling over stolen desserts, whispering about plans to sneak an extra slice of pudding. He called them partners in crime, not because it sounded sweet in interviews, but because it was true. They moved in sync like twins who knew how to finish each other's sentences. William was the cautious one, quietly checking if it was safe to ask for seconds. Harry never waited. He was already elbows deep in the pantry before Darren had time to blink. Food was safety, comfort, and a temporary escape from the weight of royal expectations. Darren still remembers how their faces lit up when banana Effeltart was on the menu. One evening, after a rough school day, he surprised them with their favorite dishes. The mood shifted instantly. They were back to laughing, bickering over spoons, and teasing each other about who could eat faster. They were just boys again. No titles, no cameras, just two brothers and a dinner table. And then there was Diana, the only adult in the palace who didn't treat meals like royal meetings. She didn't care about formality when it came to her sons. Her goal wasn't perfection, it was happiness. She wanted them to grow up with sticky hands from syrup and memories of late-night snacks, not just stiff table manners. When the nanny insisted on boiled vegetables and calorie-counted dinners, Diana would shoot Darren a look, half amused, half annoyed, and tell him to give the boys something they'd actually enjoy. Her philosophy was simple. Let them be happy, let them be normal. That freedom transformed the atmosphere at Kensington. William, usually measured and serious, would loosen up when she was around. Harry, whose energy was always just barely contained, became softer, more open. Together, they mirrored her emotional, impulsive, but full of heart. The kitchen became their sanctuary, not because it was royal, but because it wasn't. Cracks in the crown. But even in that warmth, McGrady started noticing the quiet differences. William's future was already being carved out in hushed conversations and scheduled appearances. There were grooming sessions, formal briefings, and polite nods toward destiny. He was the one aides whispered about. He had a path, and it was being paved in real time. Harry's world, by comparison, felt like a question mark. He drifted in the undefined space of despair, not quite needed, not quite ignored, and eventually that uncertainty bubbled up. Darren remembered one afternoon when Harry overheard staff planning yet another public outing for William. He suddenly asked, not out of jealousy, but out of confusion, why no one ever asked him anything. It was a small moment, but it echoed something deeper. William had pressure, sure, but he had purpose. Harry had freedom, but no clear place to land. And even in a palace filled with gold and tradition, that kind of aimlessness is heavy. William didn't react much when Harry asked why no one ever involved him in anything. He just shrugged. But Darren McGrady remembered that moment. He remembered it because it didn't come from rivalry, it came from confusion. And yet, despite those small signs, the love was still real back then. When William scraped his knee, Harry was the first to run for help. When Harry had bad dreams, William would quietly slip into his bed and stay with him until morning. Diana used to tell people that the boys might argue, but no one was allowed to mess with them except each other. That was the rule, and McGrady believed it. He saw it for himself, the eye rolls, the bickering, the way William would correct Harry, and how Harry would groan dramatically. But then it would pass. They always forgave each other. At least they used to. Outside the palace walls the image was flawless. Two brothers side by side, united by grief, bonded by legacy. But in the kitchen, away from the cameras, a quieter truth was unfolding. There was still love, but it wasn't even any more. William was already learning how to carry the weight of expectation while Harry stood nearby, still unsure if he was even allowed to matter. McGrady remembered those kitchen days well. That warm space filled with banana flan and laughter had been their safe zone. But he couldn't forget how over time the silence between the boys started to stretch longer. Not because of one big argument, but because of a slow, creeping distance neither of them could name back then. The royal family has always known how to protect its image. It's a machine built on grace, structure, and unspoken rules. For outsiders, everything looks polished. But for those like McGrady, who saw the real boys up close, the current frost between them didn't just appear out of thin air. He believed the unraveling began in their late teens. After Diana's death, they clung to each other more tightly, or at least it looked that way in public. But behind the scenes, the contrast between them was already growing sharper. William had started to measure his words, to think before reacting, to mirror the men in suits around him. Harry, meanwhile, looked increasingly trapped, like the walls of the palace were getting smaller with each passing year. McGrady wasn't a therapist, but he noticed what he called emotional posture. William stood tall because he had to. He had structure, routine, and advisors. His role came with a script. Harry, on the other hand, had questions. He wanted to be part of something real, something human, not just something royal. Over time, the differences deepened. William was cast as the future king, poised, composed, dependable. The press adored him. Harry, on the other hand, became the unpredictable one. He was the one splashed across the headlines, often for the wrong reasons. While William was praised for staying calm, Harry was criticized for making waves. McGrady once said William was becoming the future and Harry was becoming the question mark. And once that narrative took hold, it became harder for either of them to step out of it. Harder to meet in the middle like they used to. Harder to remember the boys who once argued over spoons, not press coverage. The boy who vanished behind the headlines. Every mistake Harry made, every party photo, every awkward quote, it all became a buffet for the tabloids. Darren McGrady, who had once watched the princes chase each other through Diana's kitchen, started to notice a shift. The boy who used to dance around the table without a care was now shrinking into himself, still in the spotlight, but increasingly unsure of what that even meant. He looked visible, but somehow forgotten. And yet both brothers kept showing up. They stood side by side at public events, posed like old times, and laughed on cue. But from where Darren sat, something felt off. The spark in their eyes was fading. The casual shoulder bumps, the easy banter, the small instinctive ways they once reached for each other. They were vanishing. The closeness wasn't just strained. It was starting to look like it had been scripted. Darren remembered the Charles and Diana days, and the silence between their sons was starting to echo that same cold choreography. People liked to point to Meghan as the turning point, but Darren never saw it that way. In his view, the fracture was well underway long before she arrived. Her presence didn't create the divide. It just made it impossible to ignore. Years of being cast in different roles had already set the stage. William was the heir, the steady one, the polished image of the future crown. Harry was the support act, charming but optional. Always there, but never the priority. McGrady never criticized either brother, but his words carried weight. He noticed how royal events had started to feel uncomfortable when they appeared together. It didn't feel like a reunion. It felt like an obligation. He once admitted that the two of them standing in the same room now felt more like strangers trying to be polite. He also noticed something subtler and more telling: the way they talked about each other had changed. Gone were the inside jokes, the playful teasing, the warmth between words. Interviews now came with pauses, calculated phrases, and sometimes nothing at all. That silence said more than any official statement ever could. For a long time, Darren kept things light. He told the fun stories, the banana FL Diana loved, the prank wars between the boys, the messy joy of a royal kitchen that once felt like a real home. He believed in the bond between William and Harry. He defended it. He thought they'd figure it out. But then came the video. It was simple, just Darren in front of a camera. No headlines, no royal reporters hovering around. He looked older, heavier, not in body, but in spirit. There was something in his eyes, a weight that hadn't been there before. He admitted that maybe he'd misread it. Maybe the cracks were always there, even when the spoons were being licked and laughter filled the air. Maybe it was easier back then to believe in a happy end. The chef who finally said it. At 63, Darren McGrady finally said what everyone else had only whispered. The same man who once served trickle tart to giggling princes was now staring straight into a camera and undoing years of hopeful royal fairy tales. His voice stayed calm, but the words landed like a gut punch. He admitted he had been wrong. He had truly believed William and Harry would always find their way back to each other. But now he saw the truth. This rift wasn't temporary. It wasn't just drama stirred by press headlines or fueled by palace whispers. It was rooted in something deeper, two brothers holding on to years of unspoken resentment. And maybe, as he quietly confessed, that tension had always been there. For years, Darren had been the safe storyteller. He gave the public glimpses of Diana's kitchen, of banana desserts, and the mischievous duo who once plotted together in hushed voices. But this time there was no fond memory to soften the blow. He was confirming what people had long suspected. The distance between William and Harry wasn't just a bump in the road. It was a slow personal unraveling, one that had been quietly happening behind closed doors long before Meghan Markle or opera ever entered the frame. He reflected on how grief had once brought them closer. After Diana's death they were inseparable. He remembered thinking that nothing, no title, no role, no crown could drive a wedge between them. But that was the fairy tale version, the one he had clung to because he wanted it to be true. The reality he now saw was much harsher. In the video, Darren didn't accuse anyone. He didn't throw blame or point fingers. What made his words cut deeper was the emotion behind them. He described watching the brothers at recent events. No smiles, no warmth, no spark, just cold glances and rigid posture. At one point, he recalled seeing Harry quietly waiting outside the kitchen when they were younger, hoping to team up with William to pull a prank on him. That memory now stood in sharp contrast to the Jubilee, where Harry walked right past William as if they'd never known each other. The last time Darren saw them in the same room, everything about their interaction screamed discomfort. Shoulders stiff, eyes averted, smiles tight and hollow. It wasn't just awkward, it felt final. He had the sense that these two hadn't spoken honestly to each other in years. And worse, neither seemed to know how to begin. Darren said he wrestled with whether to say anything at all. He didn't want to be seen as yet another former royal staffer trying to cash in on secrets, but time had shifted something in him. He'd spent decades protecting those memories, preserving the softer side of a family too often defined by scandal. But now, with the distance between William and Harry growing colder by the year, he felt like silence was no longer kindness. It was denial. The silence breaks before the crown does. Darren wasn't just any royal employee. He was the man who had seen the brothers grow up, had grieved with them, laughed with them, and watched their world change from the quiet side of the kitchen door. So when he spoke, people didn't hear a commentator. They heard someone who knew what it used to feel like when the palace was still home. He said that silence does more damage than truth. And the second he said it, the truth echoed louder than the crown ever intended. What struck people most was the way he said it. Not with bitterness, but with sorrow, like someone finally admitting that a picture he'd held in his heart no longer matched the present. Within hours, McGrady's video was everywhere. Social media clipped it, shared it, dissected it. Comment sections turned into emotional battlegrounds. Some fans praised him for finally saying what royal watchers had suspected for years, that the rift wasn't just press hype. It was real and it was personal. Others felt betrayed on behalf of the royals. They asked why now, why him? The answer may be simple, because he had nothing left to lose and everything left to mourn, but inside the palace walls the reaction wasn't as philosophical. According to insiders, Prince William was furious, not just at what Darren said, but at who said it. This wasn't a pundit from a breakfast show. This was his Darren, the one who made lunch while Diana sat in the next room, the one who saw the family before it fractured. For William, hearing Darren publicly question the one relationship he's tried to protect, even in silence, felt like betrayal. And Harry, despite the ocean and estrangement, Harry reportedly didn't take it any better. He's built his post-royal identity around the memory of his mother. And Darren was part of that memory, an extension of Diana's warmth. That trust had been quiet but solid. Now, to see someone from that inner circle speak out felt like another piece of Diana being taken from him. Royal experts were stunned not because McGrady said anything shocking, but because of how deeply it landed. This wasn't someone exposing palace secrets. He didn't leak texts or describe fights. He simply said that he once believed the brothers would be okay, and now he wasn't sure. That emotional honesty hit harder than any scandal. It felt like someone holding up a mirror, not to the family, but to us, the public, the ones who watched William and Harry walk behind Diana's coffin, the ones who assumed their shared trauma would bind them forever. McGrady wasn't delivering gossip. He was grieving a bond he once believed was unbreakable, and that kind of grief sticks. What makes all of this harder is the shadow that's always present. Diana, long before memoirs and interviews, there was a quiet promise made inside Kensington Palace. Diana didn't believe in the monarchy's politics, but she believed in her sons. More than anything, she wanted them to stay close. McGrady remembered it well. She once told him in that offhand way Diana had that as long as they had each other, they'd be okay. It wasn't a command. It was a hope, a mother's plea disguised as casual conversation. Now, decades later, that wish feels less like a prediction and more like a ghost. Because the truth is, the boys didn't stay close. They drifted into different lives on different continents with different definitions of duty, love, and family. And the silence between them, it's deafening. McGrady didn't try to cause a storm. He just spoke from the heart. And in doing so, he brought something rare into the royal conversation, real emotion. His words didn't just confirm that William and Harry had drifted apart. They brought back Diana's voice, her quiet hope that her sons would always stick together. Now people are left wondering if even her memory isn't enough to bring them back. Then what is? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.